Just what's it going to take to break Trump's obsession with death? Like, subscribe, and don't forget to comment.
You know, to start out, and my question to you essentially is, you know, what's it going to take to wake up or defeat the members of the Trump death cult? I mean, even the professional war criminals, George W. Bush, who told his biographer back in 1999, Mickey Herskowitz, before he was even officially running for president, said, if I ever get to become president, I'm going to have a war. I'm not going to have a short war. My daddy's war only lasted 3 days in Iraq. I'm going to have a real war and get myself reelected so I can then privatize Social Security. I mean, he's you know, I've played the tape a million times for you of, you know, him saying that, or of Cindy Sheehan quoting, you know, Mickey Herskowitz, his biographer, the guy that his parents, George Sr. and Barbara, hired to ghostwrite A Charge to Keep, which was George W. Bush's so-called autobiography that came out in 2000. You know, and George just told him that. I'm going to have a war. That's how you get reelected. Ronnie Reagan showed us how to do that with Grenada. My daddy did that with Iraq. He didn't get reelected, though, because his war only lasted 3 days. I'm going to have myself a war. Well, even that guy, George W. Bush, is not willing to be on the same platform with Donald Trump. And then you got Dick Cheney, the guy who illegally, you know, he and John Yoo and Jay Bybee, you know, got together along with a few other cretins and said, hey, let's figure out a way to torture people. Let's violate the UN Convention on Torture. Let's do stuff that we could be charged, you know, under the Nuremberg tribunals with. We'll get away with it. Don't worry. We've got some good Republican judges. Let's start a private prison down, or an illegal prison in a third country so that it won't be subject to the rule of law in the United States. We'll call it Guantanamo or Gitmo. Even that guy, that war criminal, Dick Cheney, he's not willing to show up on the same stage with Donald Trump or Mike Pence or any of these other grifters. I mean, it's pretty bad when war criminals think that you are too distasteful to be around. We should probably be grateful, though, to Donald Trump for gutting the Republican Party. He's exposed a 40-year-long con job, first perpetrated by Ronald Reagan. I was reading parts of a biography of Richard Nixon over the weekend, and it talked about how actually enthusiastic he was about expanding long-term unemployment. Well, he thought it would make him more popular. He was having to deal with a recession at the time. He at first objected to the Environmental Protection Agency. In fact, I believe he vetoed the first effort at legislation to bring it about. But later he enthusiastically adopted it. He expanded the size of the regulatory state. Nixon, at least, thought that government could do something. Reagan? No. Government does nothing but get in the way of billionaires and big corporations. It's real simple. And, you know, Trump has pointed that out. So now you've got all these Republicans sitting around going, you know, we can't even, if we're going to start a new party, we can't even call it the GOP. We're going to have to call it something else. Let's go back to the Whigs. Except people will think that that's, you know, like a new political party for bald people or something. I don't know. But basically, Trump's Republican Party has become a death cult. And his own supporters are enthusiastically supporting his efforts to make America more brutal, more crude, and frankly, more deadly. And the final proof of this came this week when we learned that while only 10% of Democrats say that, you know, 177,000 dead Americans is an acceptable number, and it's shocking that 10% would, but, you know, basically with these surveys, you always find, you know, this small margin, this 10, 12% of people who, you know, either didn't understand the question or were just trying to throw a monkey wrench or were just like hopelessly stupid or whatever it may be. So 10% of Democrats say, yeah, 177,000 dead, that's okay with me. 90% of Democrats said, what? That's terrible. But on the Republican side, 57%, more than half of Republicans say it's okay that 177,000 Americans are dead. And meanwhile, we're getting reports literally from all over the country that outbreaks of COVID are happening in the social circles of people who have returned from the Sturgis bike rally, where 250,000 Trump-supporting bikers got together and breathed all over each other for a week. So the question most Americans want answered, and I think that this is a legitimate question to be asking, is what's it going to take to defeat the members of Trump's death cult? I mean, Jim Jones led a death cult, and in the end, he and his cult members all died together. And we're hearing stories, actually, from hospitals time and time again. I mean, very, very rarely do these have names attached to them because of confidentiality laws and things like that. But, you know, I can tell you, if you have any family members who work in big hospitals, they will tell you that there is a startling number of people who come in with COVID going, oh my God, I'm a Republican, I listened to Trump, I thought this was just going to be the flu, and here I am in this hospital bed looking at the possibility of being dead within the next 14 days. And they're scared to death. David Karesh took his followers with him. Hitler damn near did, and Tojo too. So history doesn't give us any really clear guidelines, but it is kind of rife with warnings. Meanwhile, today the Republican National Committee, or the convention, the RNCC, kicked off. There will be no new Republican policy statements, no new platform, because that was just too much work. You know, Donald Trump doesn't do work. They don't do the serious stuff of governing. They haven't had caucuses. They haven't had committees. They haven't, that stuff is for losers. We're just going to hire a guy from Celebrity Apprentice and have him put on a show, because it's really just about the show, right? The Trump administration was never about governing the country. They were always just about the reality show. That's all they do. It's why Donald Trump doesn't show up for meetings or read anything. He just he watches Fox News 7-8 hours a day, plays golf a couple hours a day, and tweets for a few hours a day. That's it. So the convention has started. I'm curious your thoughts on that. And of course, Louis DeJoy, the Postmaster General, is before Congress this morning. And, he's saying, well, I'm not trying to slop the mail. The fact that the mail slowed down right after I became Postmaster General is just a coincidence. Right. I suspect that in this hearing, the subject of the privatization of the post office will come up. It never once came up during the Senate hearings. And that should be the real issue. But what I'm hearing Republicans yelling and screaming about is, oh my God, there are dead people on the voting rolls. Yes, there are. And oh my God, dead people might get a ballot in the mail. Yeah, they might. They're not going to vote it, though. That's a felony. That's a crime. People don't do that. Stores put stuff out front on the streets. People don't steal it.
This is the Thom Hartmann